Well, here we are again on our True Business Stories podcast, and welcome, Mark. And today we have a really, I guess it's not one of the best kept secrets of Geelong that I keep talking about. We actually have a very well-known and prestigious business that we're interviewing today, and the owners are John and Tony Spence, and we're at Prestige Jayco on the Ballerine.
And we've just driven in, and we've already, both of us have walked over and started looking at the camper van, what should I say, mobile home that's sitting out there in the forecourt, going, wouldn't mind that. So, no, it's a great place to be. So welcome, Tony. Welcome, John.
Thanks, Mark and Bill. Can I just jump in first too?
Sure.
I'm not one of the owners, actually, Bill, at the moment.
Oh, well, we might fix that by the end of the interview.
No, it's mum and dad, mum and dad.
Good, but it's a good family business. That's all I hear around Geelong. It's a great family business,
yes,
and very involved in the Geelong community. So, John, how did you get started? I heard that you came off a farm at age 47 and bought a business in Geelong. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct, Bill.
I must have read the wrong book.
I certainly did come off a dairy farm
Yeah.
out at a little place called Dreite, which is 17 miles north of Colac. Now, that's where we grew up. I was born there and grew up, and I come from a big family. There was 13 children in our family. So it meant that when I got to finishing school and because my dad was a shearer as well as running a dairy farm. So when I finished school, I was doing the milking for helping Mum milk the cows for another couple of years until the next child or brother came of age to leave school, and so he then took over, and I went working. Whether it was digging post holes or driving a tractor or wherever it was itinerant working, and then I suppose at a younger age, then I got a job with a company in Colac, and we were sort of involved in agricultural chemicals. And we were sort of at the forefront of agricultural chemicals being introduced in the area. They were, because in those days there was a lot of what they call freezer peas. They'd sow big broad acres of peas, and they needed to be treated to try and keep the weeds under control. So that's where I sort of started working for people. And then I got a job with Meggitt Limited, which is they grew linseed under contract. Right around Victoria, South Australia, New South Wales and Queensland. And so I worked for them for 20 odd years, and the company that was bought out by a multinational, and at the age of 47 they retrenched me. I'd been with the company Meggitt, and then it was Cargill. I was retrenched at the age of 47. It really hit me very hard. And the first thing, there was nothing else. I didn't know what I was going to do. So the first thing that we did was a friend lent us a caravan, and we went down to Skeens Creek for about 6 weeks. No power, and it was Kennett River, not Skeens Creek. Kennett River, no power, and we were there for 6 weeks, and we had a wonderful time. Our youngest then was 8. And he joined the nippers, and we started experiencing things we'd never had the chance to experience before. So it was just really incredible. And look, I had to clear my mind. I mean, I've sort of, as I said, come off a farm. I'd worked all my life. Sean, our youngest, as I said, he was 8. He was our 4th child. The other 3 were older and out working, and so we still had a job to do. We still had to rear a young bloke and school him, so that cost a fair bit of money. And I suppose I then come back. We had a little house in Geelong, and I saw this little caravan repair place advertised, a little business, and I thought, oh well. Perhaps I'm at I'm at semi-retirement age, but a little repair business, mightn't be too bad for me. So consequently, we're able to buy the little business called Clemrose Caravans Repairs, and he operated out of a little spot in Sadleyers Lane, which was right beside Trevor Stanley, and I think in Mercer Street. So I was lucky enough to get a mortgage. An overdraft. Because we were buying our house at the time, so we had a little bit of equity in that, and so I was able to go to a bank. And in those days, banks were different to what they are today. And I got a $40,000 overdraft, which helped basically pay for the business and paid for some operating costs for the next, how long it was going to take. And there was one gentleman who was 70 years old. He, because I knew nothing about repairing caravans, but he did, and he was just a beaut bloke, and he stayed with me for about 3 years, and we started to build the business. And I suppose what I felt, it's been my psyche all through my life, was service, and we just wanted to give service to people. We just liked people. Joan, my wife, was with me. She would be there, cleaning up the kitchen when we made a mess, because we used to take a sandwich press in there, and we never went out and bought our meals because we didn't have any money to do that. So we'd make our own meals while we were working, and so Joan would sort of help clean that, and also wash the curtains in the older caravans. In those days, they had little curtains, and generally the old Viscounts and Millards, it was either brown or orange or lime green, and so that's the sort of industry that we're in. And when we bid buy the business, we also bought, part of it was being a warranty agent for Jayco. And when the pyramid crisis hit, the person that in fact Ron Prato was his name, that had the dealership in Geelong, he got into strife because of the pyramid. He had perhaps all his money tied up in the pyramid scheme, and he basically went belly up overnight. And so therefore Jayco didn't have a dealership in Geelong, and which was, they were selling, quite a number of caravans around the Geelong and the Western District area, and so they really needed another dealer in Geelong. So as luck happened, about 12 months before that, we'd moved to this site that we're on now at Prestige, and I bought the little business at the time was called Prestige Caravans, and we moved Clem Rose Caravans to here because it was a little bit bigger, and I was of the theory that I think if you could sell something, you then built up your clientele for repairs. So that sort of all worked out that my philosophy was probably right, but luck got in the way, and we were able to get the Jayco dealership. And Jayco being, having sort of 40 and 50% of the market at the time, it wasn't a big market either. It was quite a small market in those days. But, we could see that was where our future lied. And so we were able to keep repairing caravans and also having some on display. And basically that's what we've built into today. So started with one employee, now we've got 70. So, and that's semi-retirement, by the way. So I can tell you it's gone completely, basically a different direction.
Well, John, it's a really interesting story, and I've got, I know it's not about me, but I got a parallel. We came off a dairy farm in Cobram, and my father at age 50 came down to Geelong and started a soft drink company. Yeah, at that age, Mum and Dad both worked like crazy in the thing, and that's what happened in those days.
Yes, and we were your customer. I mean, our kids loved the Noddy soft drink, I can tell you.
So you've got to a state now where you are what I call probably a very large small business.
Yes.
Right? There are big businesses and small businesses, but there are large small businesses. And that's because it's a family business.
Yes.
So tell me about the family business side of it.
Well, it was basically Joan and I, right? And Tony was working at Australia Post at the time. Our eldest daughter was Jacqueline. She was a school teacher. And then Lisa, our youngest, that was out working, she got involved in the nursing industry. So I mean, they were doing those jobs, and that's the job that suited them, and we couldn't afford to employ them anyway at that particular time. But the time, moved on, and we started to have to employ people. And Tony was doing HR when he was at his job at Australia Post, and we needed a HR person here. Tony was receptive to the fact that he would come and work with us, and so for the his first 2 or 3 years here, he was our HR person.
Good.
So, Tony, when Dad said to you, come and join the business, what went through your mind? What was the thinking process?
Yeah, well, this is in the early 2000s, I suppose, when I'd been married for 20-odd years, had a couple of kids, and I really loved my job at Australia Post. So I wasn't really looking to change jobs, to tell you the truth, Mark. I really enjoyed my job, and the hours suited my family life at the time. So and Dad was never pushy. Mum and Dad were never pushy. They just said, are you interested in coming on board? And I wish I had done it earlier, because I didn't realise what such a great industry it is. It's fantastic. And so it was about 2007, and I was able to pull the trigger and join here in the HR role, as Dad said. And that gave me a great grounding of what the company's about and the people that are involved in the company. And that's was a really soft landing for me to learn about the business and learn about the people, what their roles are, and what was important to the company, and what we needed to get better at, and what we needed to do to progress. So and as luck would have it, 3 or 4 years later, I think we lost our GM. He moved on. Our GM moved on, and that position became available, and it was a kind of good transition. I had a fairly good background, and it enabled Dad to kind of step back from the business a little bit, even further, and enjoy life. And Mum and Dad had done a fair few trips over the time, I suppose.
Yes. In
that period, but they could still keep the be reassured the company was rolling on okay and getting looked after. So
Tony, there's an old saying, I remember when I did the company directors course, that from a wise old gentleman that was running one of the programs, he said the best thing a director can do, and this applies in family business, and I guess, John, this is the best thing a parent can do, is just stick your nose in but keep your fingers out. Is that right? Does that ring true with you too?
Oh, I think you've hit the nail on the head. From my perspective, as you're spot on there, because I know Dad can come in here and within half an hour he can see what it takes me 3 days to see. He can and you get a lot of advice from Dad, and that's. But as you said, he gives me the freedom to do what I need to do from day to day. But you're quite right. I mean, it's been fantastic, because it said. It's Mum and Dad's business. Everybody understands that, but he does allow us, and that's one of the things I've learned from Dad too. He says you employ people to do a job, don't do their job for them. Empower them to do their job, and that's been one of Dad's strengths over the years. He doesn't think he knows everything. He doesn't tell people how to do their jobs, but he's there to guide them and to help them and share some knowledge. And I think that's a perfect example of what you're saying.
Yeah, it's interesting because. The statistics say that only 8% of family companies survive to the third generation.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I guess from the two of you, let's cast our eyes into the future. Explain what you think the business will look like in the future, and will it? Hopefully, it'll remain a family business.
Yes, I think that's what we all hope. We've actually. Any of the businesses that we're involved in Geelong, and we're also involved quite extensively in Bendigo. Now, we've made a purpose of purchasing the land that we operate from, and I think that's really in the back of our Joan and my minds, is that we've always got the land. They're not making any more. So it's always we believe it's all going to be valuable. And yet, when we purchased this place in Bellarine Highway, where we operate from Prestige, all the financial advisors were telling me that you should buy shares because it's got the greatest return over, a short period of time. And if you did need to recover your money fairly quickly for something, well, you can sell them fairly well overnight if you like, whereas it's totally different with land. But I went against their advice, and I purchased the land that we bought this land for about $500,000 in the 90s, the early 90s. Today it's probably worth $3 or $4 million. I mean, to me, I could have had shares for sure, but I still think that we're on the right side of it by buying the land.
Yeah,
and,
but without the land, you probably wouldn't still have the business.
Bill, you're probably right.
That's
because we haven't had to worry about a landlord. We haven't had to worry about where we're going to be. If we want to do something here, we can do it. But I think that's probably what's driven the business too, is the fact that we have gathered our nuts. We just might as well say we haven't sort of gone in other directions trying to chase a dream. We've basically kept accumulating, and it really stands us in good stead right now. And I think Tony can see it now. He's got a better business to run now because we're solid, secure, and our finances are in order.
And you can live with peace in mind. Right.
Is there another generation behind you, Tony?
Well, both my sisters, she's got 3 girls and I've got 3 sons. And they've all, as Dad said, they've all got their own careers at the moment. There's not too many in business. I've got one son who's involved in business at the moment. He's in construction industry. But you never know what's down the track, I suppose, with people when they change their path in life. But it's an interesting question, that's for sure. It's something we have discussed, amongst the directors. But it's not. We haven't got a definitive answer right now, I'm afraid, Mark. No,
but
it'll take some time. But I suppose they've seen you work in it. They've seen Grandad work in it, so they know what it's about. So
they do. Look, and they're capable. All the kids are capable of being able to come here and take over, I'm sure. And they do like the industry too. Although Lisa's children, they've gone. One's a hairdresser, the other one's a beautician, and the other one does work in the handicap field. They're all very successful in their own right. And Tony's boys, they're all living in the US at the moment, and they've been in the baseball industry and very successful at that. So you never know where these things lead, though, do you? But they've all worked here in their younger days. The 3 of them, 3 of Tony's boys have all worked here.
Yeah, but John, if you and Tony have consolidated the business and put in all the right... Talking about business processes now, systems and processes and all the governance issues that a lot of family business have neglected over the years, then the family don't have to be involved in the business.
They don't.
And and as you know, you're only as good as the people you got working for you.
Correct.
You look after them and they'll help you look after your business.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, and you're spot on there too. And that's one thing. I think our employees like being part of a family business. They definitely enjoy that. Yeah. And I know pre-COVID, Mum and Dad would be in here. Mum would be over here a fair bit, and she'd know all the wives' names and the kids' names and all the family things that go on with things. And she'd bring Christmas time. She'd have presents for all the kids of all the employees. It's changed since COVID, obviously, because you can't spend so much time here. But that's part of the fun of being a family business. And what Mum and Dad enjoyed over the time of having some great social events with all our staff and looking after them, as you said, looking after your people and getting the right people on board. But COVID's really knocked a business like this on the head, as in social structures and trying to be, share team environments, because you've just got to be so distant sometimes. That really makes it hard. Yeah,
well, we're moving on to a whole new era now, and who knows what that will hold. But look, my favourite saying is that business is about people doing business with people. We should never forget that.
That's right.
And with families in particular, and I've sit on some family business boards as the outsider, and it's from what I sort of garnished today talking to the 2 of you or listening to the 2 of you, is that you seem to have the formula right. And I think that's, given my experience, because I've seen it when it's not right.
Yes,
believe me.
I have. So,
so how have you structured your governance for the company? So you're the general manager.
Yeah, correct.
So is there a family
and we
board?
operate a board. We operate a board, which I'm the chairman.
Yep.
Our eldest daughter, Jacqueline, and her husband, Roland, are part of that board because they live in the US. Excuse me. Because they live in the US, we basically are calling them consultants rather than board members, directors. But Tony's a director. So Tony and I are the directors because we in Australia. But with technology today, It doesn't matter where you are in Australia. And Jackie and Roland are absolutely magnificent because that's their field they're in the US, advising people and managing businesses. And so the governance basically has come from them, and that's come from EY, the big organisations like EY, Verizon, GE, and Electrolux, all those big companies which they work for and advise, a lot of them. So that's where basically our governance is all structured, and it's, for now, I suppose, how many years, Tony, we've operated this board? At least 10 to 15 years of operate, and of course, so we've got all those results. Tony's the secretary, so all those board meetings are all documented and filed away, and I did that purposely, that if we did want to sell the business, we've got something to sell, and it's history, it's a policy, it's procedure, and done in the correct manner.
You know what I find, sorry, Mark, just following along the same theme, is that the secret with family businesses is to run it like a corporation, put in the systems and processes, but don't do it in a way that's going to kill the entrepreneurial spirit and the family spirit.
No, that's correct.
And that's a real trade-off sometimes.
Yeah. Well, Dad mentioned it before. We've got control of doing something. If something needs to be done, the final decision rests with Dad and Mum and Dad anyway. So if we need to put a new shed up or buy a new fleet of car, or say a couple of cars, it can happen pretty quickly.
Do you do financial reporting as well, Tony, through to the board?
Yes, we do, Mark. We've got and we're involved with the local Geelong accountancy firm that oversees our financial process as well.
Yep. So they hold you to account?
Yeah, they do.
We've got an external accounting
And
operation.
now let's change tack for a minute. What's, I guess, caravans where, I saw a video where you said that you're in the business of producing little white boxes that get carted around with families in them.
I did say that.
Right? So I did do some homework last night. So where are caravans today? How have they advanced, and what's the real innovation that's happened in the caravans in 2022?
Yeah, well, Dad can see what Van Hughes first started working on in the 1980s. It's a totally different van it is today, that's for sure. And the components are different. They're a lot lighter than they are now. They're a lot lighter and a lot more technology, I suppose. Dad's got one of the latest models at home. It's called a Silverline, at top of the range Jayco, and Dad could probably explain more than me the actual features of the Silverline, because they're the comfort is what people are after. Like in the old days, say for simply you'd have a foam mattress. Well, these days they're inner-spring mattresses. I mean, people want a comfortable bed to lie on, and that's a huge difference between having a great holiday or a bad holiday is how you sleep.
The baby boomers and like my age group and the younger people today, they want comfort when they go away. We've a lot of us have got quite reasonable houses that we live. Our standard of living in Australia, we're very, very lucky. But when we go away, once we get to a certain age, we want comfort. So we like to take the kitchen sink with us. And basically that's what we've got in a caravan today, even little washing machines, microwaves, TVs, and of course with Bluetooth and with internet today, you miss out on nothing. You could take Foxtel with you or whatever, your apps. So you miss out on nothing. It doesn't matter where you are in Australia. And we not last year, the year before, we went through the centre, and I took one of those long range phone things with me. What do you call them again? Satellite phones. Do you know I didn't use it once because of all the mines and things right through those central areas. They've all got networks, and you can log into their internet, and we had phone connection, mobile phone connection all across Australia. It's nowhere near the difficulty, travelling these days to what it used to be.
And I've noticed there's the move away from the caravan that's on the road to being a caravan that can go off-road or semi-off-road.
Yes.
And as you know, we were just chatting earlier, I just did the whiz across the Nullarbor, and I was amazed at how many of those caravans were being taken off-road and parked to look at the Great Australian Bight.
Right.
Is that a trend as well? Is that...
I think 60% of our product now.
Well, they are, and it's grown every year. You're right, quite right. The Outback models have got larger every year, the percentage of sales. And the sale of checker plate, I think we must have cornered the market in checker plate because our customers seem to love that black checker plate around their van. Makes them feel bigger and tougher, I think. They're going off road. So that's
But
you're right.
Yeah, not only that, we're right up with all the latest on solar panels, and you can go and camp beside a river for a couple of weeks if you want to. If you've got some batteries and your solar panels and things, and everything's 12 volt. Our fridge today in our new caravan is a 12 volt refrigerator. So when you've got gas, we've got a gas heater in it nowadays rather than the diesel heater. I think, for a number of years we were using a diesel heater, and so you had to take a different fuel. I mean, okay, a lot of cars are using diesel, but to get diesel out of a car, to get in your diesel heater on your caravan's not easy. So you've got to carry a separate drum with diesel in it. But these days you've got a gas bottle on we've got 2 gas bottles generally on the front of your caravan. So we use that for the heater today as well as cooking, and then 12 volt fridges and 12 volt microwaves, all these things. Yeah.
Good. Now on another matter, I know that the two of you are very generous in the community and have developed a good community spirit. Tell us a bit about giving back to the community from a family point of view and a business point of view.
Well, I might jump in here first because I know Dad set a budget for giving back to the community and sporting clubs, and definitely young sporting clubs. That's been a fairly big focus of Mum and Dad's as well. But you're quite right, and I can just jump in here and say Dad actually received an OAM a couple of years ago for his services to Geelong, and that was part of
well deserved, I take it.
Yeah, and that was part of the presentation, I think, for his reason for getting the OAM. Because over the years, and some things you put your sign up on their sporting event, but some places you don't even get recognition for it. So what you do see that we do publicly, there's a lot of stuff that's get done doesn't get recognition for. So that's the thing we know about, but and the thing we understand that Mum and Dad do, and they allow us to have a budget for community efforts. But you're quite right. It's been really enjoyable to be able to help local sports and such a wide variety as well. Like girls basketball or lawn bowls or the golf, Lifeline. I mean, our Dad's helped Lifeline. It's not just sporting things; it's community things as well. Connected communities, Geelong Connected to Communities is part of it. And we also, industries like the Geelong Tourism, we just love supporting them as well because we understand they bring people to Geelong and help the community as well.
I love the fact you've got a budget. There's so many businesses we talk to and it's done on, that looks like a good idea, as opposed to a little bit more structured and we're going to support this, we're going to support that. And it's not a bottomless pit at the end of the day. You've still got to earn money to be able to donate money. And I think that's fantastic.
And Tony couldn't run a business if we didn't have all these structures set out in place. And it makes it so much easier for Tony. And Tony has really lifted our profile up in the cities and the areas where we can help people. In my day, I was basically hands-on, building a business. And I think our generation were called the builders, aren't they? And so my job was basically building it and was, working in the industry, and I could do anything our staff could do. Whereas Tony's a lot different to me because he's got the education as well, which I didn't have. But luckily, with help from our eldest daughter and her husband, we've basically set the whole business up now with policies and procedures and all the parameters that we need. And that's made so much, the job, I think, so much easier for Tony to do because really he's just got to follow those guidelines and it makes it, and he does a good job at it, by the way. He's really done a good job.
Sell caravans. He's got to sell caravans too.
That's right. You do have to,
but he's got a sales team to do that.
You have to earn money at the same time. Yes. And Tony, I guess I've met you because we're both judges on the Geelong Business Awards. In fact, the next 2 weeks I see you and I are actually going out as a pair to do some judging, which will be interesting. But my final question to both of you is, right, we've come out of COVID. We're in a situation where it's still up and down and there's no certainty about what's happening, and there are all the issues around can't get employees and change the governments, etc., etc. I guess, John, I'll ask you first. What do you see as the biggest challenge for business in the next 12 months?
Bill, I probably think it's this wage structure. We as a business, we're really in a bind. It's not just the wage of a person. It's the superannuation that's just been increased. Our staff, it doesn't matter which staff, whether it's our staff or anyone else's staff, they really think that that's coming from the government. And of course, when we get our people to try and think about what their wage is and how it's all structured, the part that they get is probably about 50% of what it actually costs us, because we've got all these other on costs. You've got stamp duty, you've got payroll tax, you've got all these other things that actually... So you give 1% to a staff member increase, and that really probably works out at about 5% by the time it goes through all the different parameters. So I think that's our look. It's getting staff and being able to retain them, because we do train. We spend a lot of time and money on training our people. We love that. We love giving our people opportunities. We just hope they stay with us as long as they can. But they're getting pinched. I mean, as soon as someone's well trained and they present well, then someone else likes
that's
them.
happening everywhere. Tony, what do you see as the biggest challenge in business in the next 12 months?
Yeah, I think part of that is keeping your team happy and trying to. It's working's not just about doing your job; it's about being part of a team. I think at the moment, that's where we've got to make people feel like they're wanted, and they, for their own mental health, they love being part of a team, and they love being needed. And I think we've got to keep reminding ourselves to make sure that our staff know that they're doing a good job and that they are an essential part of our business. And it's easy sometimes just to float along without giving feedback to staff.
So just before we wrap up, plug for your business. Why should someone buy a caravan, and why should someone come and see your sales team here at Prestige Jayco?
Well, I can answer. We're going to get a lot of first-time buyers. They've never even thought about buying a caravan, and they're either going to love it or hate it. But we're pretty confident they're going to love it, because it's you go on a caravan holiday, you go through the gates of a caravan park, and it's another world, and straight away you relax. And as Dad said, you can go somewhere and not even use your phone because you're too busy just having a good time. And the comfort that you can get in a local caravan, a modern caravan, is a lot different to what it used to be. But they're just, as I said to Bill before, he mentioned about being in a white box. Well, that's what you're doing. You drive out the driveway in a white box, and it's up to you where you go. So that's the part of it being a caravan. You can go to Warrnambool, you can go to Echuca, you can go to Queensland, you can go anywhere you want. And when you open the door, you see a different side every day, don't you?
Fantastic. So Tony and John, thank you very much for the open and honest conversation. And to the folk who listen to our podcast, if you're after a caravan, pop down the Bellarine Highway at Newcombe and have a look at the team at Prestige Jayco. Very impressive site and very impressive team.
Thank you, Mark. This has been a very enjoyable session, and I hope that all those that are listening to it can learn, they will learn, particularly some of the key insights into running a family business.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Mark.